Welcome back to Recovering from Everything, a podcast for everyone who has ever had anything happen to them ever. I suspect, I have a feeling that I will be ranting for the first 20 minutes as some sort of weird venti intro. Venti, I meant vent, but also venti as in the biggest size of Starbucks that you can get. So venti intro, here we freaking go. If you are watching this on YouTube or Spotify, I know what you're thinking. Kinga, why are you dressed like an adult baby? And here's why. I have taken off my bra. It is the end of my workday. I wore a bra today for 4 hours. I don't support that at all. But I also, and I love not wearing bras, and I think you should probably also take off your bra right now. But I also don't necessarily feel like I should be flashing my floppy boobs all over YouTube and Spotify. So I am wearing this, and it covers things up. Not that you can really see anything. You never know, though. You never know, especially with how animated my body movements are. You never know. A couple of things. One, update on the last podcast. If you listened to it and you DM'd me your well wishes about it, thank you so much. There were mixed reviews, and by mixed, I mean every woman that listened to it that messaged me was like, I am here for the petty. Yes, because that is a conversation with your girlfriends, right? That's literally what happened. Thank you so much. One man messaged me about it, and I was like, listen, this pod ain't for you. I appreciate that he was like, oh, I'm going to listen to it. But I was like, this is not for you. And he messaged me that I contradicted myself. Now, listen, here's what I need you to know. I don't think he's ever going to listen to any other of my podcasts ever again. So this feels like a safe space for me to say. One, I had a crush on this man. So for him to message me and be like, you contradicted yourself. The only feedback, not you looked so adorable. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how brave and courageous you are putting all of your shit out there in a public forum. Okay. No, none of the above. He messaged me that I contradicted myself. Now, here's the contradiction, which was a big misunderstanding. And had he listened closely, instead of trying to mansplain my own fucking podcast to me, what he would have heard is, when I am moving forward and trying to date someone, I don't care about appearances necessarily. This summer has really opened my eyes. I realized I am into short, bald men, which is a brand new thing for me. They don't have to be short and bald, but they can be shorter. They can also be bald. Okay. I mean, that opened up a lot of doors for me. So it's not necessarily, so he was like, oh, you don't care about looks. But then I spent the rest of the podcast talking about how terrible these people look. Yes. A, they're terrible people, objectively. But two, it's part of the petty. Three, I'm not saying that I don't care about anyone's looks. I do care about the looks of objectively terrible people. And if they are terrible looking and they look horrible inexplicably, you bet your ass I'm going to do a whole podcast on that. But what I meant, which he just whoosh, was in my new dating life, I've been really, I have opened my eyes to different aesthetics, which is brand new for me. Brand new. Had you seen my past exes, they all had a little something in common, okay? Shit, most of them could have been siblings, really. I really, really had a type, and my type has expanded, and I love that for me. And so that allows me to say what I said in my last podcast, which is looks aren't necessarily as important as the quality of this person's character. Are they making me laugh? Are they making me feel good about myself? Number one, do I feel good about myself around you? Do you make me feel like your mom? Do you make me on edge and feel like I have to explain things? A big, big, big thing is, are you intentionally misunderstanding me so that you can be a little shit about things? So that's what I meant. So if any of you fine ladies also clocked that, you know what I meant. Okay. I'm not sure I have a crush on this person anymore because I don't know. We've been getting a lot of mixed signals. That gives me the ick, to be frank. He's not I really like flirting. I don't know. I don't know if maybe this man doesn't know how to flirt or he's like legitimately just not into me. Anyways, I have sworn up and down that I am done with having a crush on this person. So far it's going okay. Anyways, so if you are a man and you are listening to this podcast, turn it off. It's not for you. Okay. It's not for you. I don't care. I don't care about your thoughts. If you're like crushing on me and you're like trying to get to know me, great. Binge them. You'll learn so much. But if you are listening with like some type of like critical ear, don't do it. Shut it off right now. Get out of here. And certainly don't message me with your friggin' criticisms and your honest feedback. Anyways, said to him, you could literally have just said anything nice. And he was like, that's fair. I was like, okay, now say something nice. And he said, your love for your friends is definitely at the forefront of the episode, which, I love my friends. I'm obsessed with them. So as they are with me. So, that's, I guess, nice that that came out. I don't know. I don't care. This man was very sweet. He like, I don't know if you guys follow me on social media. I don't know how the fuck else you would have gotten here unless you follow me on social media, but um I felt like really under the weather last week, not with like a cold or flu or anything like that. Um I had like a full, I don't want to say migraine because I don't want it to take away from people who suffer from migraines, but I feel like I was on the event horizon of a migraine for like a couple of days. Like I like couldn't recover. Anyways, he came over and gave me a nice massage and a head massage, and I was like, okay, yesterday I was like, I hate you, and today now you're just being adorable and sweet, and then that's it. Now I'm back to being like, I can't get me out of this. Get me out of this connection. I don't know what this is. Anyways, I'm feeling much better. I needed a lot of rest apparently, but I am back to being fairly 100%. I suspect because I am already going to, because I already have, going to be airing some grievances before we get into the sort of like meat of this episode, in which you'll learn a lot more about me. But it is geared toward an educational and entertaining understanding of some of the drivers of any sort of like substance abusive behavior, any kind of like self harm behavior with overdoing things. We're going to talk about the biopsychosocial model, which I know sounds super nerdy, but it's actually like so cool. And once you understand it and understand your own model and how to like plug the answers into different places, it really helps to make you realize like, oh, everything sort of funneled me into that first drink, or the seventh drink, I suppose would be a better description of that. And it's hopefully starts to take away some of your like shame or your like moral crisis and like overdoing things. So, and it's not just for alcohol. Obviously, I work with women who overuse alcohol, but it works for like a lot of other things. Um, so I'm going to try to kind of give you a little bit of perspective on the biopsychosocial model, what mine kind of is comprised of, and comprised of, no, comprises. Yeah. What comprises my biopsychosocial model. Um, and hopefully you can start to sort of like understand your own. But first, more bitching. So in the month of August, I just to get like a little bit techie on you, who is texting me? It's my one of my girlfriends, Kristen. Shout out to Kristen, who for sure is not listening to this, but that's okay. My like there's like my best friend, like one or two of them that listen to this podcast. My best friend Erin, you guys know all about her. She listens to everything. She has like also like clippings of the articles I wrote in my university paper. Like Erin is diehard. I don't think she still has those, but you never know with Erin. But shout out to Kristen, who's never gonna listen to this because I also have like a handful of friends who are just like, we know everything there is to know about you, and we don't care about any extra information. So, and that's fair, and I don't fault them for it. Um, but Kristen, if you're listening, shout out and I love you. She just texted me. I texted her a screenshot of 333, which is has now become an inside joke with us because this guy a few months ago texted her this long video. It's like a 3 minute like video, just being like, hey, I saw that it was 333 and I thought of you, and then proceeded to mansplain what the angel numbers 333 mean, which it's cute, but it's so funny to me that like you think you're going to explain what angel numbers are to a woman in 2025. We live and breathe angel numbers, sir. We live and breathe it. So, she just texted me back a screenshot of 345, which is really funny, and that she thinks this is so romantic. Oh God, I have the honestly the best friends. Okay. So back in at the end of July, the way that women find me mostly, despite how freaking aggressive I am on social media, I do advertise. I advertise through Meta, and um, my pixel broke, and it wasn't. So what that means is there's like a little code that follows that kind of attributes basically how far people get in my process, and it targets the ads to more people like that. So my end game is to get the right woman to book a call with me, and the right woman is the operative word there. And so if the pixel breaks, the wrong people are finding me, and the wrong people are also seeing the ad that's like useless to them. Like I was getting like men like showing up in my comments and stuff, and I'm like, something is so terribly wrong. So we had it fixed. I had it fixed. But it takes a while for that pixel to like warm up again and get to understand like who I want and who wants to see my ads. So we're still I'm literally only now, as of this week, starting to talk to the right-ish type of woman. So what I mean about right-ish is she'll look good on paper on the application form, and on the call, it is technically the type of woman that I work with. So super high functioning, has tried a lot of things, but doesn't quite feel like anything is suited for her or that she fits in anywhere. And, she's possibly been in a relationship with alcohol for like decades. Um, where it's been falling flat is the readiness to be like, I'm done, right? And my joke sometimes is like, if I were to tell you to stand on your head for 25 minutes a day and that would help you, like, would you do that? They are not there. It's not part of the curriculum. I want you to know. It's just like a way for me to assess like their stage of readiness, basically. The type of woman, I mean, we're still canceling a million calls. Like the booking form isn't just like, hey, show up and talk to Kinga for free. It's an application, and I make it very like clear that it's an application. I don't talk to, I would say probably 80% of the women that fill out that application. Because A, it's like not thorough enough. B, they're not willing to invest time, energy, and money into themselves. Like there's all sorts of kind of like little red lights or green lights that me and my assistant Sherry look for on that application before we confirm a call. I have limited time, so I'm not just meeting with everybody. So the applications have looked okay for the women I have met with, but we're still canceling like 75-80% of the bookings that come in. Um, which is it is what it is. So, it's really important to me that our group is like it's very heavily curated. I really, really try to make sure that all the women that I offer a spot to have very specific qualities. So if they're not, if they have passed the yes, Sherry and I like your application, let's meet, let me get to know you, and you can get to know me. We've already seen something in there that deems you appropriate to, at the very least, take up an hour of my time. So I met with a couple of women this week, and it's this is how I know like the ads are still underperforming despite me spending an absolute fortune with Meta. Meta, I love you so much, but like let's pick up the pace a little bit here. So the couple women that I did talk to, first of all, on Monday, I had 4 appointments booked. So we had confirmed, they had confirmed, we were ready to go. 2 of them canceled the day of. Okay. One, uh, I'm calling it a no-show because I texted her and then I called her and was like, "Hey, your appointment started. Like, what are you doing?" And she was like, "Sorry, I was cleaning my house." I'm like, "Listen, if you're like lukewarm about this, I'm not letting you anywhere near the ladies in my space because those women are like go-getters, right? I work with high functioning women. They are high functioning." So, anyways, and then another one she got called into a meeting last minute. I texted her, my assistant texted her, and then we sent her a rescheduling link because like we did like her. We did like her. So we sent her a rescheduling link. She has yet to reschedule. Okay, so that was my Monday. Okay. So and I want you to know that I was wearing a bra all day. Okay. Then the 2 women that I have met with so far this week, it almost feels like they either just sometimes I feel like women meeting with me, that's the productive thing that they're doing, and it like ends there. So they like talked to a coach about their drinking, and like that's the thing that they did. And they neither of them had yet crossed into the threshold of, so what are we going to do now? Like, so what now? And I think part of it could be a little bit my fault, because I'd had such a long string of sort of being like out of practice on these calls, and so maybe I wasn't asking the right questions or something, but I think maybe that's a small percentage. I just realized I'm not wearing my AirPods. Hold on. But the majority of it is not a state of readiness. And truthfully, I'm not sure. And I do what I can in writing my ads and recording my ads to um appeal to the type of woman that I like to work with, and the type of woman, frankly, that like needs to work with me. Right? Like I mentioned, like super high functioning, everything outside is good. But they've really been struggling with their drinking. Their relationships are getting sketchy. The way they feel about themselves is like kind of dark. Um, so I do my best to appeal to that kind of woman in the messaging that I put out there. That is who I want to work with, and that is who needs to work with me. Um, Meta can only do so much. I understand that. But it would be cool if they did a little bit more because I have these conversations with women, and it's so exhausting for me. Like the amount of information that I'm absorbing on that call it's insane. Um, like after I record this podcast, I will be closing my curtains, ordering dinner, and putting on the most mind-numbing show or movie that I can find because I gotta be done here. Um, but it's also very, and this is maybe like a control codependent thing that I have to continue to work on. And I've come so far already, but it's definitely still lingering. Is it's so hard on me to let those women off the call. So I'm like, this conversation did nothing for you except open up a bunch of wounds. And so we're getting off this call and you are raw and you are in pain and a lot of shit has come to the surface, but you refuse to um walk. The way I phrase it sometimes is I've given you a ladder to climb out of this hole and you're refusing the ladder. Like I always think about like, okay, well, what happens for them now? And like sometimes I ask them, right? Like, so what's your plan after this? Like, what's your plan B? And I know it's just like back into the cycle. Like we took a little break, we took a little pause, we deviated from the root of the cycle, but like we're hanging up. Tonight is back in the cycle and it's more damage and it's more shame and it's, more secrets and it's more really, really difficult conversations where they have to be on the defense. Like just all of it. It's more hangovers, it's foggy mornings, it's nausea. It is, oh God, I hope people don't smell it on me, right? Like it's smiling on the outside and like crying on the inside. Like it's business as usual. And like I know it sounds selfish to be like, oh, that's so hard on me, but like this is my podcast, so I don't care. But like it's hard on me to to talk to women for an hour and feel so connected and be like, oh yeah, like you I can help 100%. And for them to just be like, I don't think so. No. Um, and of course, naturally, like the price is such an easy thing to hide behind, right? Like they're not used to spending this kind of money on themselves or they don't have it or whatever, but it's like, no, you do. It's I can only do so much to get a woman to a point in her self-worth if she's digging her heels in and refusing to take another few steps. And it's not even necessarily to, add value to her self-worth, but to do it for like all the things in her life that she loves, that she doesn't want to lose. I can only do so much. I can only do so much. And so that's why I think part of this is on me. And maybe um I've missed asking some important questions, or I've missed offering perspective or shining a light on important things. And I think part of it is that I'm a little bit out of practice because my freaking pixel was down for so long. So, um, it's been a weird few weeks, to be honest. It's been a really weird few weeks. So, anyways, I think that's the end of my venting for now. That was like, I don't know, a long time. And I appreciate it if you're still here. We're going to get into something like more informative. Um, yeah, I have/had a crush on a man who either hates me or is in love with me or is completely apathetic about me. I don't know. And I've been struggling with getting the right woman into my group. I have had a couple of real beauties. But I'm certainly accustomed to a more consistent flow of things. And the community is beautiful. Like my current clients are the best. Um, but yeah, like the CEO part of this. God, like what a weight on my shoulders. Anyway, um, it's coming. They're out there. I know they're out there. And maybe it's you listening to this podcast, but we'll see. Okay, let's get into it. As I said, this is an episode dedicated to something called the biopsychosocial model, which sounds like a gigantic, long, complicated word. It's not. It's three words smushed together because in the English language, we do that. Biology, psychology, and sociology. And this is my favorite model for overusing anything. For the purposes of this podcast, it's going to be overusing alcohol. um I know that like 12 steps groups like AA and a lot of rehabs actually use the disease model, where it's, this is a disease and you're super powerless. And I don't like that model. I like feeling empowered. I like empowering my clients. I like to figure out where their strengths are and hone in on those, rather than focusing on that they have some type of sickness or illness. That's not relatable to the type of. Um, I don't like using the word can't. And people make that mistake of being like even with me, like, oh, you can't drink. And it's like, I literally don't want to, and I'm an adult and these are my choices. I also don't drink cow's milk, right? You've heard me say that before, but people are not like, oh, you can't. It's like, no, like I could. I don't like it. And I don't like how it makes me feel. And so I drink freaking hippie shit instead. So we're going to talk about the biopsychosocial model. I'll give you a little bit of insight into mine, and hopefully it helps you with yours. But again, this is like, a lot of women aren't necessarily educated or know where to look for this kind of information. Um, in my program, it's all crammed together in one gorgeous 12-week program. And we discuss everything in intense detail and how it relates to you personally. So if that's what you're looking for, give me a shout. But you wouldn't necessarily know what to even Google. So I hope that this episode is helpful with that. And I hope the rest of my podcast is helpful with that kind of thing also. So that's it. Enough ranting. Let's go. KKKKK. So before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to one of my favorite physicians, best-selling author, fellow Hungarian, Gabor Maté. He's written a couple of books on the sort of impact of life on substance use, um, more specifically trauma, capital T, little t, the way that we process trauma, and I suppose the way that we don't process trauma actually probably would be a better way of putting that. But no, he's most known for sort of connecting the dots between trauma, stress, substance use, and has a great explanation for the biopsychosocial model and what it is. So bow down to Gabor Mate because I love this man so much. Again, this episode is sort of designed to remind you or to alert you to the fact that changing your drinking isn't necessarily about willpower. There's a whole world of things driving you into the way that you drink. So we'll talk first about, like I said, it's the biopsychosocial model, and it's divided into three parts: biology, psychology, sociology. This model, each of those categories will have some of your answers in each of those categories will, have an arrow pointing directly to uh, something in another category, and so on and so forth. Not everything will, but some stuff will. So the biology part, this is kind of like your hardware. So this is your internal physiological programming. Of course, some of this stuff was programmed before you were born, right? Your genetics. Um, Gabor Maté has a great way of looking at this, in that so just because substance use is in your genetics, right? Like if I shake your family tree, you're not the only one that's going to fall out of there. Just because you're programmed to uh, be more likely to overuse alcohol doesn't mean you necessarily will. Um, what pushes that and what is more of an accurate determiner is your psychology and your sociology. So, the way that you think and your environment. So, you get the perfect cocktail of bio, psycho, and social working against you. Uh, you're going to overdrink. Sorry. Um, Most likely. I don't want any men jumping into my comments. I mean, like, well, that's not necessarily true. Yes, Kate, take everything I say with a grain of salt. Most likely, maybe, probably, allegedly, likely, blah, 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 all that other stuff. Early stress. So early cortisol, right? That's the stress symptom in your body as a kid, changes how your brain handles reward and stress. Um, so when your body is in high alert, we will find tools to feel differently. So anything that acts as a reward to our system. And when you're really young, it could be like some sort of like soothing toy or something. For a lot of kids, this becomes food. In our teenagers, it becomes alcohol. For some people, it becomes drugs. Later in life, it might become people, shopping, so on and so forth. But our brains, very, very early on, if we are exposed to stress, we look for a way to soothe that stress. And so it then sort of programs us to look for a stress reducer outside of ourselves, right? We weren't 3 years old having a parent be like, oh, you're stressed, let's practice some deep breathing, let's practice some self-soothing, like hold yourself and rub your back. Usually there's some when the a young child is having a stressful experience, um ideally a parent is there to soothe them and rub their back and so they feel safe. um Often, in high stress homes, the parent is absent in some way and not necessarily out of the home, but emotionally focused on something else, some sort of emotional or psychological absence. So the kid is left to their own devices to figure out how to soothe their stress. They reach for something, right? Later in life for women, the biological portion of this is cortisol, so continued stress. The alcohol that you're drinking tends to, depending on what time you go to bed, but it tends to typically wear off around 3 a.m. Cortisol kicks in at 3 a.m. This is your body being like, where is it? Maybe you've got a stressful job or a stressful home life, and so it's pretty high stress, and not necessarily that anything crazy is happening. You just continue to be flooded with cortisol through the day. And so our reward system for that is a glass of wine after work, a glass of wine at 5 p.m., a glass of wine at X amount of time. And so we carry that through the evening. Um, but it wears off, which you wake up at 3 a.m. Also, if you're a woman in midlife, maybe you're perimenopausal or menopausal, which means you're experiencing temperature changes, which means you're sleeping like shit. Your hormones are all over the place. So this is like just constant physical stress on your body. And like our reward system is alcohol. It's fast, it's cheap, it's easy, it's accessible, it's literally right there. Show me another thing right now that will soothe you as fast as alcohol. Another important one is blood sugar dropping. That's stressful for your body. Brain fog, hot flashes, right? All of those like perimenopausal, menopausal symptoms. And Gabor Maté has such a beautiful way of looking at it. It's just so forgiving, and this is why I am pushing this man on you. It's just so very forgiving. Everything sort of like it just makes a lot of rational sense. So, um, these sort of experiences that your body is having chemically, physiologically, they're not your enemy. They're signals that your body needs something. Um, the sort of unfortunate thing is that alcohol mutes them like temporarily, but it makes them go away. But as you know, they come back. And so alcohol isn't necessarily the most effective way for you to manage any of the physiological things happening anymore. Um, alcohol exacerbates them eventually, which you might know. So for me, for example, I know now that overusing alcohol is just all over my DNA. The older I got and the more I sort of got to know different family, and all of my family is in Eastern Europe. Like my immediate family is here. My parents were normal drinkers, though I think my dad did at one point like quit drinking. He said in his 20s because he was like, I just had one night where I drank too much, so I just like quit for a while. But my parents are like normal drinkers. So what I saw, so besides being genetically blessed with the higher likelihood of overusing alcohol, um, my home environment when I was young was incredibly stressful. And if you've listened to the episode where I read my diary from grade 9, when I had my first drinks, the immense amount of like relief and peace and joy that I experienced, I literally in my diary was like, I'm going to do this as often as possible. Um, because I hadn't experienced that much before. I was so consistently stressed out. My parents were nuts when I was growing up, but I also like had trouble in school. I was sort of like a problem child at school. I was always getting into trouble. I know now that I had like undiagnosed ADHD. I also for sure fall somewhere on the autism spectrum. But that was like not a thing in the 90s. That was like you had to be, especially wasn't a thing for me. Like in my family, I was the first person that ever attended therapy when I was 20. And my parents both said that I was crazy. So that'll just give you like an idea of kind of what it was like for me. So there's the bio, there's the psycho, there's the social. So the first time that I drank, it was the greatest thing ever, and I did it as often as possible. For a long time. So that to me is like, oh, yep, check, 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 check. Of course I did. So I have a much more forgiving perspective of what life was like for me growing up, and that I wasn't a bad kid and I wasn't the problem child. I was extremely misunderstood by people who had very limited thinking and were abusive and violent. So, uh, who's the crazy one now? Anyways, so again, the biology, the physiology is important, but it's really the way you think and your environment that determines the likelihood of you overusing anything. Food was also a big sort of issue for members in my family. My dad overate. My dad craved sugar a lot, a lot, a lot. Have you ever seen someone having a sugar craving? Monsters, monsters. Um, And, my mom was really obsessed with appearance. So, like weight, was a big discussion in our family. Anyways, there's all sorts of like these little sort of day-to-day things that me and you are exposed to that program us, um, genetically, psychologically, and then our environment is like, okay, well, how do I show up environment? What's the expectation of me in this environment, that I conform, that I adhere to very narrow, strict standards? Is anyone in my environment like talking to me, getting to know me? No. Later in life, and if you are a woman that is still drinking later in life, have a look at these things, especially your psychology, because now it's had decades and decades and decades to determine the programming of the way that you think about yourself, the way that you think about others, the way that you think others are thinking about you. Um, you've got a bunch of decades of like data, basically. So this is like a brief overview. If you want to know more, have at her. Again, this is like something I do within my women's program. I have each of them chart their biopsychosocial model. I give them feedback. We like look at everything. I help them like connect the dots in places. But we also have a plan for them moving forward on how to start reprogramming some of this stuff. But if you want to kind of like do this on your own, have at her. I just want to give you the awareness that this exists. Because again, a lot of women wouldn't even know what keywords to search for in Google. But for you to start just getting like a very general idea, and I will continue to relate it back to me because I know it's helpful with like personal examples. Um, but have at her. Do your own Google research, and let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Okay, so the psychology portion of it. So again, the psychology is how you think. So your inner dialogue is going to shape how you use substances. So your beliefs about yourself, your attachments to important people in your life, grief, your own perception of your own identity, who you are in this world. Um, and Gabor Maté says that a lot of us, the majority of us, have what's called relational wounds. So when we're younger, or even when we're older in our tight interpersonal relationships, when our emotional needs are ignored or invalidated by someone outside of us, this leaves like a psychological impact on you. I always ask my clients, like, what's the messaging here? Because other people do it to us. Some of them not on purpose or maliciously, but it does happen to us. But then we also do this to ourselves, which is sort of like the hardest pill to swallow, is the programming that I had when I was younger on how, the adults and how other people treated me. I took the reins at some point and started treating myself the same way. And so that's kind of the hardest thing, is like, yes, maybe I was the victim way back when, but at some point I became my own aggressor, and I started ignoring my own emotional needs, and I started invalidating my own self. And I do this with alcohol. I do this with people. Some of us do this with food, procrastinating. Like we do this in so many ways where uh, you get programmed to be like, I don't matter. I don't come first. And like every time you have a glass of wine when you don't intend to or don't want to, or when you have a glass of wine when you're feeling, really sad. What's the messaging? What's the messaging you're sending yourself? Don't confront your feelings. Don't listen to your inner voice. um, don't fulfill what you wanted earlier today, which was to not drink. Your goals don't matter, et cetera, et cetera. What is the messaging that you are sending yourself? The other ways that we kind of do this is, like, for me anyways, I never really knew until I was much, much older, but I am an introvert. So I like being social. I prefer and require alone time, or like very quiet time, or one-on-one time. Like, that's what fuels me, and that gives me enough energy to have those bursts of social. But of course, because I had like invalidated my I because I had been invalidated for so long, and then I took over and started invalidating myself, and kept trying to be like a square peg in a round hole. I kept putting myself into situations that I thought were just like expected of me. Like, I should be able to do this. I should be able to schmooze and go out and whatever. I kept invalidating myself until I was much older. It was actually like well into my own sobriety that I was like, what if I just work with this? What if I just work with my need for quiet? And what if I work with my need for developing like real bonds with people, um as opposed to, when I was drinking, I was out there, I was loud. And I'm still out there and loud. Um, and I mean, I'm a good time socially, mostly, unless I'm tired, unless I haven't given myself enough downtime, unless I haven't paid close enough attention or honored my own needs that week, then I'm a fucking terrible time. I'm a monster. Um, but so that and not to say that you are all introverts or whatever, but I'm just trying to give an example of like these like subtle cues that your brain is telling you about your identity. Are we invalidating them and trying to meet some sort of perceived expectation, or are we like honoring them and listening to them? We talked about the stress and like reward system in the biology part, but so psychologically, your reward system is external, right? Because we're looking to alcohol to help us um, change our perceptions about ourselves, help us feel better, right? So, like with alcohol, it's like, oh, have a few drinks before I go out. Because I need that, like, courage or lubrication, or I need to dull my kinga-ness because I have deemed it so unacceptable and awkward and sort of clunky over the years. I know, you're probably thinking, Kinga, you awkward, clunky, and awkward. Awkward, clunky, and awkward. That was perfect. That was the most perfect thing that could have happened. Yes, I know. I know. Shocking. I can be very awkward and like also like very like shut down. If I'm tired, I'm so shut down. Anyways, so I think sometimes I would need like sometimes literally every single time I knew I was going out, there would need to be some sort of um lubricant or dilution of me. And also this idea that like alcohol brought out a more fun, more acceptable version of Kinga, when like, okay, fine, I know that that's relatable, but like what I want to know is like, what parts of me am I deeming unacceptable? Like, what parts of me am I saying like, no, you hide in the darkness, stay in the shadows, you're not allowed out tonight, I'm going to drown you with like cheap boxed wine to make ourselves like acceptable to the masses. I want to talk to that dark little, those parts of me. Anyways, our reward system at some point gets wired to be externally. So I receive, a flood in my brain of the good chemicals from external sources. So this is like especially true, and I'm going to relate this back to my clients, like for high functioning women. Um, if you early on are taught that like performance and doing equals love, reward, um, alcohol will become one of the sort of few places that you feel seen. Like I hear a lot of women say like alcohol is my best friend. And like, okay, well, let's analyze what a best friend is and what you value in this like best friendship. Feeling seen, feeling relieved, feeling comforted, um, without necessarily having done anything at all, or overperforming during the day, and then your reward system is the alcohol. Could go either way. Which one are you? Okay, again, there's like a million examples I can give you, but I hope you're getting the idea of like the psychology and your programming. And some of it is smoke in mirrors. So what you think you're looking at, i.e., like um, alcohol is my best friend, or alcohol helps me be social. That's the distraction, and I want you to look at, when you're doing your own psychology portion of this, to look at what's behind this. So if alcohol is your best friend, what is it about friendships that you value? Um, that's what you're seeking. And you have to find a way to give yourself that without this, without the fermented grapes or potatoes that are like ruining your life. Look at um if you're drinking alone and that's how you like it, which I know almost all of you are. If you're drinking alone and that's how you like it, and you sort of have like free reign to like um uh drink as much as you want and do whatever, and that's the way that you sort of like punctuate your day, and that's how you relax, and like all the stories that you're telling yourself. I want you to look at, how were you programmed to treat yourself when nobody's looking? Who taught you how to treat yourself, and what did they teach you on how to treat yourself? And at one point, did you say, okay, thank you, I've learned everything I need to know about how to treat my body when I'm alone and nobody's looking. I will take it from here. Thank you so much. Okay. So things like that. Again, I could honestly go on about this forever, which is why it's like, I put it in the curriculum in my program, because it's like, it's so important to like map out your own biopsychosocial model. Because so much of what you think you know about yourself and your relationship with alcohol um, is smoke and mirrors. Like there's way much more important information behind what you think, for lack of a better word. Okay. Moving on to your the social portion, so biopsychosocial. So this is your environment, your ecosystem. Um for a lot of for some women, they look back on their childhood and they're like, my childhood was great, like I always felt safe and nurtured, and I did sports and we traveled, and we were upper middle class, like everything was good. Great, cool. Your environment wouldn't necessarily have contributed to you, right? And this is when people are like, I don't I a lot of I think I just had a stroke. Many women, when we get on our first call, are like, I don't know why I drink. I didn't have any trauma. Okay. So what I hear then is, in my sociology, when I was a kid or through over the years, um, there was nothing bad in my environment. Cool, great, love that for you. That's not necessarily that's one thing. Okay, you don't have trauma. Gabor Maté has a really interesting take on trauma. So, and I'm going to share this with you because it's going to change everything hopefully for you. So, trauma isn't the event. That's not the trauma. It's what happens after the event that is the trauma. So, were you left alone to process the event? Was anyone there for you? Did you get access to helpful resources? Did you feel safe after the event? XYZ. Okay. So there might not necessarily be a big traumatic event in your life, but there are events that happen in your life. And I want you to think about what happened after the events. Did life just go on? Were people checking in on you? Were you, did you have people to talk to? Did your, mom or spouse or best friend or whatever, like check in with you and soothe you and like help you after? Or were you completely alone? Um, or alone-ish? Great question, right? So, your environment, if you feel alone in your environment, oh my God, worst thing ever. It's like being in a crowded room and screaming and nobody can hear you or nobody's listening. So, your environment, your sociology is the culture of your environment. How do people talk to each other? What do we do? How do we process feelings? Etc. The culture there. I keep hitting my elbow on my table. The culture there plus the relationships. So, okay, not necessarily anything bad about your childhood, whatever. Think of the home that you currently live in or your workplace where you maybe spend 8 hours a day, or workplaces past, or homes past, or relationships past. There's all sorts of ecosystems that you step into through your life and over the years, and all they all have an impact, some specific impact on you, and that can't just be negated because things are fine. Things were good. Everything's fine. Something is impacting you in your environment. There's no way for it to not be. So let's just actually have a realistic, very honest look at your ecosystem, past and present. Almost all of the women I talk to are discussing their relationship with alcohol with me for the first time ever. And they've had a relationship with alcohol, and a concerning relationship with alcohol, sometimes for a couple of decades. And they've tried different things, but it's been decades. How? So, okay, so fine. So that's what we're looking at, right? That is the smoke in the mirror. So if we look a little bit behind it, how lonely do you think that is? How unsupported, how unseen, the real, most whole, complete version of them in their lives. How unseen is that woman? How unheard? If I am the first person that she is ever talking to in a very like honest, raw, real, non-judgmental way, how unheard. There would be no reason for her voice. There would be no reason. If you remember, oh man, this was like almost 2 years ago now. There was the episode on my podcast where I lost my voice. And I don't know if you're into that woo woo shit, but I think the universe is constantly making me feel things and think things and do things, including ripping away my voice. And I was in that relationship, and I was never ever expressing any of my needs. I was just like going with the flow and working really freaking hard for this man to just like stay in love with me. And I was like literally never saying out loud what I truly wanted, what I truly needed. And then one day I just like lost my voice out of the blue for no reason. I was not sick. Not, my voice just went away. So how, if these women are talking to me for the first time, and most of them are in their 50s or early 60s, talking to me for the first time, how unheard and how unseen. It would be inconceivable. Like, yeah, okay, right? There's also the idea that I just, again, this is very vague, very general. I'm just kind of throwing a couple of things at you, but the idea of being like an emotionally unsafe home. So, you might be thinking like, no, my home is completely safe. There's no violence, there's no screaming. Maybe there is, I don't know, but um, cool. That's what we see behind it for emotional safety. How comfortable do you feel? Or how comfortable are you expressing your exact thoughts and feelings to your loved ones? Are you doing it in a productive way? Are you yelling? Are you shying away from conflict? Are you people pleasing? Are you putting everyone else's needs ahead of your own? Like, how truly emotionally safe is your house for your emotions to be 100% unabashedly authentic? Give it score it in a percentage. 50, 60, maybe, right? Um, just you need to start looking at things in a very like realistic, practical way. And I'm hoping that this episode will sort of like expand your vocabulary and expand your perspective about your reliance on alcohol at the end of the day or all day on the weekends, whatever. So in a really very general, almost like a Venn diagram way. So when I was still drinking, when even like the day I discovered the effects of drinking. So my bio at the time was like very very stressed out. So extremely high cortisol, um exhausted because I was the worst sleeper. Um Probably because the ADHD that I for sure had that nobody ever thought to test me for, that I still have, and I'm still a shitty sleeper. Um, Anyways, okay, so bio, super high levels of cortisol. Sleep is garbage. My body just constantly being like, we need like rest, like so badly. Like, let us just like experience a single moment of peace. My psychology, super super high anxiety. Like I was constantly in a state of fight or flight, constantly, for so many reasons. And then sociologically, I was in an extremely unsafe home, um emotionally and physically. Um, and I remember when I decided to like finally completely just overhaul my relationship with alcohol, I was the safest I think I'd ever been. Not 100% comfortable, not 100%, emotionally safe or psychologically or whatever, but I was the safest that I had ever been, and I was like, it doesn't make sense anymore. But I was so very stuck in my ways. So over the years, like my physical state, and now it's changing because I'm like perimenopausal, which is and I'm just at the beginning. Like I talked to some of my clients who are like in it, and I know I'm just at the beginning, but it's like what what's with my temperature, especially like at nighttime? I can't. Also an acceptance and a honoring and now I'm doing research into the ways that my brain, my neurodivergence, the ways that my brain thinks, and I'm able to like sort of harness it. I mean, it's why this podcast exists. It's why I built a business. It's why my curriculum is the way it is because I'm a fucking genius when it comes to some stuff. I am dumb as bricks when it comes to other stuff, but like there are things where I'm like, oh, this is like my superpower. Like, so I've started to like honor my biology and my physiology and it's been really wonderful. My psychology, so I've done an immense amount of inner work. I've done multiple forms of therapies. I mean, I was in school for this stuff also. And that's spanned over a decade. And my environment, I have shifted it so many times to a point where I right now am like 100% safe. I don't live with a stinky man anymore, first of all. Just joking. Shout out to my ex-husband. He's not stinky at all, but you know what I mean? I No man has lived in this home and no man will ever live in this home. Um, I have learned how to show up differently in my own environment to make the relationships that are important to me feel safer and more comfortable for everybody involved, including me and including them. Um, I quit my job, which was honestly the best thing I've ever done in my whole freaking life, because that environment was wearing on me, right? Like I've done a couple of episodes on this where I was like, I was having panic attacks multiple times a week, multiple times. My biology, my physiology was rejecting the stress and rejecting the amount of cortisol in my body so much that I was constantly having panic attacks. Like, and panic attacks for me show up as like, suddenly I'm crying. Like I can feel the slow unravel. And then I'm like, "Ugh," and I like can't get it together. It's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. Anyway, so that's what that looks like now. And I love knowing about these three different components and how like some of the stuff will point to something else. And some of it is a Venn diagram and some of it is sort of floating around kind of on its own. But I know that if I'm having like a crisis of conscience or, some sort of like moral issue with something I've been overdoing, that I can just like pause for a second and be like, okay, let me look at like physiologically, psychologically, and environmentally, what's going on right now? Oh, okay. I'm not a shitty friend. I'm not a shitty mom. I'm not a shitty coach. I've got some stuff that's overlapping in a really weird way. And I need to like address one or two things to start shifting that. That's all that's happening. Know what I mean? Okay. This has been the longest episode I've done in like 2 years, I think. So I'm going to end it there. God, I hope that was helpful. Thank you, if you made it this far, for listening to another episode of Recovering from Everything, a podcast for everyone who has ever had anything happen to them ever, including having ancestors, genes, a past, a present, and a very hopeful future. Good luck with your biopsychosocial model. DM me if you need help with it. I literally could talk about this forever. Okay. Love you. See you soon.